Okay, so here's a look at the general outline of this week. It's a pretty normal week, but in terms of where the students are at each day, any prep coverage or any extra things that I have going on are noted in here. So for language this week, on Monday, we're going to be looking at making a media text to share our thinking about the dinosaurs that we created. That's something that I want to be able to share with the spectator in addition to the dinosaurs that they made. So they'll be looking at different ways that they can do so. On Tuesday, it's going to be about Mom. Mother's Day is coming up. So what makes our mom special, and creating something that they can write that they can share with Mom. So we'll look at some options together, how our word choice matters, what are some words that students might want to use, and then looking at how they can do this writing for Mom and how they can share their thinking with her. On Wednesday, it's going to be our Wiggly Wednesday, but I'd also like to tie it in with the Marsh learning as well, and really kind of getting them into seeing, thinking, and wondering based on it. And I'm thinking maybe small groups would be neat with them to be able to kind of dig deeper into it. So maybe having our Marsh set up in one area and having the worm set up in another, and giving them a chance to look, to explore, to see what's there, to dig and have those kind of rich conversations, and then figure out how they can share that in their writing, and giving them a chance to share it in the way that works for them. And then on Thursday and Friday, you know what, the students are starting to get a little more interested in our community. The Marsh kind of ties in, as does the vermicomposter, in terms of ways to help the community. So I'd like to kind of tie that to starting to look at maps. I do have some bigger maps that they can start to look at, but looking at places and people in our community, again, tying into things that we can do to help our communities, and even just for reading, like stuff like street names and street signs, places that matter to us, really kind of digging a little bit deeper in the kinds of things that we explore. So that will be on Thursday and moving into Friday, just depending on where their interests take them. Okay, so in math this week, Monday is going to be our Math Talk Mondays. It will be the kind of the follow-up to the dinosaurs. It is going to tie in a bit to visual arts, because we're also going to be looking at the elements of design, but then looking at the math, thinking, and learning through our follow-up conversations. So then on Tuesday, it's going to be Talking Tuesdays. We're going to look a little bit at Picasso's portraits, specifically looking at kind of the idea of shapes and how we can portray our looks through the shapes and things that we use as well. And then we're going to link it to a visual arts creation that we're going to be doing, and there will be some tie-in with math concepts from there. And on Wednesday, we're going to be looking a little bit at plants. We are looking at living things and stuff right now, so plants definitely tie into that, and how are they living and what do we need from them. But I'm also going to tie it into math with looking at the number of seeds and sorting, patterning. There's some shape stuff in there. There's measurement. So kind of putting a combination of things together, and then looking at how plants can be part of the class community, which will be what happens as we look in on Thursday and Friday, because we're going to look at building a community. The students are really into visual arts. This will be a really nice way for them to share their thinking. In terms of one of the things I noticed is kind of that it would be beneficial for them to have some more exposure with creating some of those 3D figures and putting them together. And seeing kind of how they go together. That was one of the things that came up with the dinosaurs. They did a lot of problem solving with it, but I've still got a lot of the paper there, so that could be a good option for them too. And looking at how to make that stable structure, and then looking at the weight and stuff of those structures and how they may vary. Builds in on the building piece, which is really big for many of them as well, really hands-on, which seems to work. And experimenting with different materials, what options and why, and we can link in literacy as well with this as they look at labeling all their places, and we can even have a class come up to see what they've made, and they can show off some of the things that they've done and talk a little bit to them about what they've created. So you can even spread them out in a couple different groups, and they can have the opportunity to talk to, and that can maybe even happen at the beginning of the following week. So then for shared reading this week, I saw this poem called Color My Mood. It looks a little bit about the colors and the connections to feelings, which I think would be really good for students as well, as we continue even to work on self-regulation and noticing those feelings in ourselves. And there's lots of good connections with the arts, so we can pull in some of those connections as we explore also some of the literacy links in the poems this week.